Good evening, class. My name is Parth, and I'm very excited to talk to you guys about law, criminal justice, and wrongful conviction. So, before I get into my presentation, I just want to pause and quickly ask you guys how your day was. And I want you to think what you guys did today. And whatever answer that you might come to that, they basically fall into two categories. Basically, your actions were either directed towards others, or they were directed towards yourself. But now the question is that how does this relate to law? And basically, it is because law looks to seek out for the common good. And it looks to measure your behavior towards others. So, I could be involved in different things, but when it comes to a point where my actions pose a threat or a harm to others, it becomes an issue of state intervention. So, since we discussed so much about beer throughout our presentations, an analogy that we can come up with is, let's say I'm in my basement and I'm drinking with my friends and I'm having a great time. That's okay, that's not illegal, given that you're over 19. But if I get intoxicated and I go outside and I start beating people up, you see my passion for the thing I'm talking about? And I start beating people up. Now that becomes illegal. And I have to mention no clip art characters where Asians going to be making up this light. But, so, hopefully you get the point that when your actions pose a threat or harm to others, or the common good of the society is threatened, it becomes a legal issue. So, what happens when it is clear that you were involved in something that did harm someone else, or the society as a whole? Well, that's where justice must be served. And we have two forms of serving justice. One is the criminal law, which basically is serious crimes against the social welfare. And the repercussions of these crimes is you lose your liberty, you get sentenced. And the idea behind that is retribution, that is what you deserve, you get back. And secondly, deterrence, preventing people from committing these crimes in the future. So we're setting an example out of it. And then there's civil law. So instead of harming the society as a whole, I harm one individual. Let's say I take someone's money. There's clearly harm, and it is to one individual. Now that's an issue of civil law. And what happens in that case is monetary compensation, or what we call restitution. Thus, it is a criminal act. I want to focus on criminal law because it's so interesting. So in summation, it is a criminal act if a person breaches the so-called social contract. Now the social contract is this unwritten contract or unwritten understanding of how a person should behave in the society, how a citizen is expected to behave. And like I mentioned, the repercussion is that you lose your liberty, and it is retributionist because you took someone else's life, liberty, or dignity. Now, this is a very oversimplified version of what the procedure of our criminal justice system is. Basically, let's say I assaulted someone and police showed up, and there was reasonable grounds for the police to believe that yes, I did cause bodily harm or injury to someone. They would most likely charge me. And then my case goes to the prosecutor. And then the prosecutor will decide if there's enough evidence and we can go ahead with the trial or not. And if we go ahead with the trial, there could be a trial by judge or jury, depending on the seriousness of the crime. And if convicted, you could be sentenced, house arrest, probation. There are a lot of details to that aspect of the law. But nonetheless, what I really want to point out is that A, you're presumed innocent until you're proven guilty. And secondly, your guilt must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Now that's different from civil law as well, where you caused harm to just one individual. There, it's balance of probability. So basically the court would say, well, we think you did take this guy's money. But if you committed a criminal act, the judge or jury must be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. Because the repercussions are so huge, like I mentioned. You're actually taking a person's liberty away, and there's a significant impact, to sum it up. But there's another question I want to ask you guys. Is our criminal justice system perfect? And since it is a product of human reasoning, of course it's prone to flaws. And it's not even close to being perfect. So in principle, what we try to achieve is that it's better that 10 guilty men go free than one innocent man be wrongly convicted. Now this might come as hard to a lot of people, that really we should let 10 guilty people go free. But then think about it in the aspect that putting an innocent man to jail, you're literally ruining this person's entire life. And I have some examples here. This really hurts me when I read this. For example, Mr. Romeo Killian. He spent 30 years in jail. 30 years. Knowing he was innocent. And the example also David Milgaard. And these are all in the Canadian system. Arguably, American system is a lot worse than ours. But 23 years. So you can think about the magnitude and the importance of having an efficient criminal justice system. And before you update your Facebook status to thank God this presentation is finally over, FML, I just really want to shed light on the fact that why we discussed this, what we did. Right? And the three main reasons why knowledge of the law is important. Because ignorance of the law is no defense, number one. Secondly, in order to have an efficient system, like I mentioned, that person spent 30 years in jail. That's not fair. That's not justice. So in order to have a good functioning system, we need participation from citizens. And thirdly, if a law is unfair, unless we get involved and unless we get active, we cannot get that repealed. And we cannot have a better society. So to sum it up, I'm confident that everyone in this room, a few years down the line after graduation, will be in a position of power, will be a successful man or a woman. And when you're in that position of power and success, keep that in mind that this society is built on our efforts and on our care, and hopefully we can leave it a step further than how we received it from our previous generation. And audience win. Thank you. Any questions?
Do you plan on getting into law as a career?
Yes. Still debating, but
What law school do you want to go to?
haven't decided. Beggars can't be choosers, but
What do you think? I was going to ask what area of law you're going into, but obviously criminal law.
yeah, criminal law seems interesting, but even international law.
I was just going to ask you what your stance on
Capital punishment?
punishment is, because they recently just opened up that.
The debate?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of it. That's a personal opinion. Evidence could be different, and people could differ. For example, I mentioned all these people spend time in jail. If you actually kill this guy.
But do you know that if a person's found guilty, say at the age of 45, to keep him in jail for life, till he dies, is over $3 million
Oh yeah,
for one person.
yeah, definitely. I'm aware of that. But then it also stems out another debate. Is our goal to save money, economic interest, or are we actually trying to look out for what is
And
justice?
is the goal like correction or just getting rid of these people?
I'm not actually for capital punishment.
No, I definitely
Just saying.
no, yeah, definitely. I just wanted to
But yeah,
bring up
I was,
audience.
because I know that we were talking about it at work just the other day, like,
Yeah, it
got
is.
into a heated discussion, so.
Yeah, it is very. A lot of these issues are very complex, and not just
Obviously.
that people feel really passionate about
It's
it.
not just black and white.
Yeah, definitely. Any other questions?
I know you talked on, but we need to wrap up.
Yeah.
So feedback, please.
Parth, I thought that was a really good presentation. You were very passionate, your delivery was very passionate, and you were very knowledgeable on the topic, as well as very eloquent, I thought. You had very good eye contact, but I noticed sometimes you were looking at the floor when you were thinking. so maybe try not to do that. There were some ummings, and I noticed sometimes when you were talking, you were sliding your feet, so that got a little bit distracting, but overall, it was very well done.
Parth, you're a good speaker. I liked how you summarized all the important aspects of your topic, and appreciate your concepts. And I like how you brought to light the important aspects that usually get overlooked. Good job.
Good job.